And perspective, kind of changing that perspective is huge from creativity.
And just want to say thank you, for hopping on this podcast, Creative Haven. And,
Thank you, man. Thanks for
I'm
having
really
me.
glad that we connected on LinkedIn. I know that you know some of my unknown cousins
I got a couple out there too, man.
San Diego. I'm telling you right now, after you said that, someone else mentioned it to me too, that I have some Dumlaos in LA that I need to look up on. So I asked my family, and everyone's looking on ancestry.com and asking the mom,
Look what
the
I started,
aunties,
man.
the
Not this.
aunties. Yeah.
Okay.
And
I'm
so
with it.
now, I was really happy to actually hear from you because I loved your background, being a jack of all trades, creative person in the marketing fields, being a media creator from California, and
Yes.
really helping companies grow. I think that's really admirable because I know how it is when you have a passion for filmmaking or creating content. And for you even volunteered for it, which was pretty awesome to see that on your LinkedIn. And so I really, would love to learn more about you. So please introduce yourself,
Sure.
a little bit about, the company that you're working at now and how you got into it. And actually, what's a moment in your life that you're most proud of?
Cool. That's a good, I'll start with the moment then, and then
Yeah,
we'll
please
reel
do.
everything in.
Yeah.
Moment I'm most proud of as of recent is the birth of my little guy.
Yes.
My little guy, Lane Sebastian Mills, the most regal name you could possibly think of, was born on
Congrats, man.
August 8th. Thank you. August 8th of 2019. Some perspective shift, life, the whole aura, the whole spirit. I mean, just everything that everybody talks about, and then some, of course, when it's on a personal level. So definitely biggest accomplishment amongst other things. But yeah, to introduce myself, Ryan Mills, San Diego native, and have really just kind of climbed up from sales and marketing, and now just landed more into a creative production executive, if you will. I kind of bridged the gap between that, that sales and marketing side all the way over to creative, all the way down through production and PAing and just anything you can imagine behind a camera, behind an board. And again, just tying that between artists, companies, brands, a little bit of everything. So a jack of all trades.
Nice. It's I've been interviewing a lot of people about the crossing of creative and business lately, from
Yes,
both sides,
it is a
especially.
thing.
Yeah, because when I'm a creator. I started with, as a filmmaker, then YouTube. And as a YouTuber, you have to figure out how to be a marketer. And then people,
Like
yeah.
overnight.
And then people who are in marketing now or in sales, you got to figure out how to be creative because you have to figure out how to come up with a campaign. Of course, you can go outsource to a media agency, ad agency, but a lot of people now want to do it in-house. And plus, the technology right now has made it so affordable,
Yeah.
accessible to companies and small, scrappy teams so that you could create campaigns and shoot
Yeah.
video and create a podcast with a kit that's around $500, maybe even $400. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, that's pretty awesome that you went from sales and marketing and into the creative. And so, how was that shift when it came to your left and right brain? And did you feel like it was an easy shift, or did you really have to train yourself from thinking from numbers to paintbrushes and gray area?
Nah. I think I started on the creative side, paint
Oh,
brushes and
cool.
whatnot. So
Nice.
my history is in audio production. Did the
Nice.
saxophone growing up, was a little bit of a band geek and all that good stuff. So that's really where the creative root came from.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the thing was, I really know I can monetize it as much as they are now with those resources that you're saying. When I was coming up, it was like you had to make a left or right. Like you're going to school, you're going to bust your tail, or you're going to be, like you're saying, you're going to fall into that stigma of just being a creative and artist and just like living by the beach and couch surfing, So I did take the, the left instead of the right, the blue pill instead of the red pill, if you will. And that was that was maybe what I'd say 10 years after I graduated, was just really pounding the phones,
Mm.
marketing, sales, the whole nine. Most recently, I would say maybe about 5 or 6 years ago is when that transition really happened. Started to see the benefit of media is being used on the corporate side, actually seeing like the media buys, like, oh, this is how that commercial gets to me. So that's always a fascinating part, was like once you're pounding the phones and you're selling, you're like, oh, it comes from marketing. You're like, all right, cool. Then you're like, where does marketing come from? And then you're like, oh, from creative. And like people who actually implement that plan in there just kind of backed up the funnel and found it, right at the bases, creative, right at pre-production where everything kind of starts.
I love that because I got into marketing funnels about a year ago, or
Okay.
beginning of last year. And before that, as a creative, it was mostly let's just throw a bunch of stuff online and do it consistently and try to beat the algorithm and find ways to really engage with my fans and collaborate with other influencers so that we can
Right.
build our audiences. It was the follow up that was really lacking, and it's the automation and it's the email list
Hmm.
building that a lot of creatives don't really understand, because the idea of having an automated campaign to create a list isn't something that was a priority. It was mostly let's just create. And then
Yeah.
if you build it, they will come kind of attitude. And for you, I know that, you were talking about how, you saw how the companies now buy ads and how it all comes back to you. Has the experience of being in sales and marketing influenced your creative production, and how so?
Yeah, I mean, instantly you have to just look at production value. And like when you're in the creative, especially before real sales and marketing and the numbers, you're not really thinking like that. You're thinking of what is efficient within my box of creative, if that makes any sense. So
Hmm.
when you start to actually build that box with resources, a crew, etc., then you understand where you can kind of blur the line. You can shave the edges a little bit as a creative. So example is I might not be able to get a gaffer on this shoot, but I can make the audio design pop a lot more. Like what's more important at the end of the day to this deliverable. So taking that into account, it does kind of tweak the creative, but in a good way, right? It ends up being the best possible deliverable in that little bit I'm able to create.
Hmm.
Still creative at the end of the day, right?
It's true. Yeah, I love how you said that, because when you are creating a campaign and you are creating actually
Oh
a
yeah.
brand, it's a creative process.
It's a
And
dance, man. The numbers are
yeah.
a dance. Like there's creativity. I always tell my guys over at Rowlbertos when I'm creating numbers, they're like, "What'd you do creative this week?" I'm like, "Dude, I made this proposal work somehow. Like I actually moved this and that around, and then all of a sudden, like that number popped out." And like that's I think there's an undervalue in creativity within the sales and the marketing and all that stuff. You got to move some mountains sometimes. Creative side won't see that. They're just going to see the dollar amount, the ROI, etc.
It's a good point that you said that, because a question I always ask people is that how are you able to explain to the business-minded people the importance of creativity? How are you able to
Yeah.
tell people, hey, it's really important that we take the time in pre-production to storyboard and script this out and not rush into it? How do you explain that to your clients?
Man, it's so many touch points from a marketing standpoint. It's I wish it could be a conversation, but quite frankly, usually if you're having that conversation and trying to make all that fit into one conversation, it's probably not the best client or fit for that matter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So ideally, you want to hit them with a little chunks of info and details here and there. Like a drip campaign on a blog that might tell you what storyboarding is, and then a week or two, tell you what pre-production is, and then next tell you how to develop a shot list. So it's really kind of informing and educating. Once you break that on a corporate side, they're like, oh, I do the same thing. Employees have to do the same thing for the new clients that I'm getting, that I'm kind of onboarding. When you're really able to kind of tweak that language to make sense on the sales and marketing side, it really bridges the gap.
Got you. And for you, do you also work with the SEO side of things? When you have to create these campaigns for clients, do you strictly focus on the production of the videos and content, or do you also have to ask the client, what are your keywords, what are your tags, what are
Hmm.
the certain target audiences you're trying to capture, and how can we put that in the content and make it relatable so that when you do post it, you
Yeah.
do have that keyword, it is relatable.
Yeah, one of the first, that's a great question. One of the first things that I address, right, is where the content is going to live. And that usually drives a lot of those next, narrative questions talking about, but even just knowing the platform specific content itself, that's the most rich and genuine experience. That's going to shoot it. I literally to ask the cameraman to go 9 by 16 and flip the camera over, and we might be shooting with 3 cams at that point. So that even just asking where it's going to live, that starts to bring out like, well, what's its purpose and its goal? If I know it's internal and it doesn't have to be as jazzy as something that's going to live in an ad, well, then let's shoot it. And if it is going to live in an ad on YouTube, a vertical ad on Facebook and IG, and then also a LinkedIn ad, then we're going to have to really sit down in pre-production. We're addressing everything from a macro perspective, but then able to, still deliver micro deliverables that fit into those platforms too.
Nice. Yeah. So I'm actually experiencing this right now as well. When you are working with actually a marketing team rather than just like the CEO of a company, that marketing
Uh-huh.
team may have already that content strategy in place. And when you do come in with an idea in mind, you have to also ask them like, what is your strategy, and then how are we going to create this so that it fits your strategy? Do you like it when you work with a marketing team and they give you that strategy already and all you have to do is shoot, or do you like working with someone who doesn't have that marketing strategy and you get to basically have free reign on how to create
Yeah.
this content?
Great question. You're going to have both. You have to realize you're going to have both. And you can hand select your clients and these marketing agencies that you're working with. And at the end of the day, it's all about relationship, because once you build that relationship, then you are going to be invited to the table to have those creative conversations. So understanding that, and then more importantly, understanding that if you're working through an agency, that they're your client, but they have a client. So a lot of times you do just have to, kind of take a seat and become kind of hired guns, for lack of a better term. But, I think at the end of the day, again, you got to work the relationship, because even then you got the agency now putting you in front of them to go meet the client. Like, hey, meet with our producers over here, blah, blah, blah. So, they're going to start at different places, all these relationships, and you just have to be cognizant of that and take it for the ride. If it's worth the ride, if it fits your business model, if you think there, a birth of a relationship down the road, then by all means make it fit. Sometimes creative does have to take a back seat for a little bit, but that's only to hopefully take a front seat down the road.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love
Yeah.
how, when you start off super creative with a client, and then after a few rounds of notes, it's like hands are up. Just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Tell me what to
Seriously. They're
do.
like, I want to be hands off, but then you're like 3 pages later, like, all right, man, just
Yeah, just give me a
tell me where to
checklist.
point. Just just dial on this. Does shot look good? Okay, cool.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And so,
And even then
that's
too, like there's creativity in that. So in film, you
love
have the
that.
ability to still have creativity in that shot. So it could be in corporate and very dry, but you can really make that light punch on the left, or you can really just kind of kin thing up away. And there's still creativity in that too, I feel.
Yeah. So for you, what gets you excited about this whole process? What gets you excited about the marketing and the branding and the video content marketing side of things coming from the music production world?
Well, there's a lot of similarities to the music production world, right? In music, just like you were saying, a lot of the tools and the resources that are readily available, whether that's software, hardware, whatever, it's easier to kind of go out and one man band it, right? I can DJ it up at the house now. I don't literally need to go buy turntables. I can kind of do my thing. It's the same with film, and understanding where you're at in that process and the relationship between the two. So I was able to kind of carry that over easily. And now I understand that a team is really important. I don't want a one-man band it all the time. I actually need people doing a lot of stuff, because in film, you don't really have the luxury of being a director, and the audio guy, etc. You might be able to wear a couple hats, but not more than 3 or 4 on set. So, once you kind of figure that out, then you can really speak to the value of what you or your company or whatever you're able to bring to that brand.
Nice. And so now that you have all
So that
this, yeah,
that's
yeah.
a connection. Yeah, is that it's finally talking, right? It's like I can talk to a brand. We are speaking the same language. You what a what an impression now, like you know
Hmm.
what a cost for the impression is. You know the cost per acquisition side. I know creatives now are talking acquisition, and I'm like, oh wow,
I,
that's a marketing term. That's great.
I
And now the
know.
marketers are now talking creative stuff, and I'm like, that's great. So I think the language is finally happening, right? Like you're saying, there's a lot of moonlighters. People have to do. You got marketing guys picking up, C200s out of nowhere, and then on the flip side, you got a guy who's been running cam op for 10 years, and now he's like trying to start his own business. Uh, so
That's
those
so
sides are
crazy.
finally talking.
I love it because I know that back in the day when I was working with, because when I was in YouTube, when I was creating stuff for my channel, I would work with brands to create videos for my target audience so that they could sell their product to my audience, and I would have this creative brief. And when I started just creating branded content just for companies in general outside of my channel, I realized like, wow, I think I can pick up a lot of what I learned in building a YouTube channel and Instagram and apply it to other businesses as like a USP, like a unique selling proposition for my video
Yeah.
production. And so now I do see how creatives are having to pick up marketing skills because when they have to create something for a client, they want to have those results. But there are two sides of it, right? Because there are the creatives, I do remember these days, where I have to do what I have to do to make my audience appreciate my work rather than look at me as a sellout, because I got to make sure I do what I always do that makes my audience happy. And
Totally.
then there is those times where it's, man, this brand is paying me a lot of money, so I gotta somehow make that work and find that balance.
Right.
And so for you, when you are working with creatives now, because you're a producer, so I'm sure you work with directors and DPs or whatnot. And you just talked about the importance of teams. How have you learned, what was kind of like your best advice for working with teams and making sure that multiple creatives are on the same page to complete a goal?
Yeah. It's doable, right? It's a lot of finessing, but it is doable. I also have a bit of instruction in project management that I picked up maybe like 7 or 8 years ago. I got certified in project management. Streamline a lot of the thoughts for me. Again, having a audio background, having a passion in creative, been doing sales, so I'm kind of used to like funnel ideals now and whatnot. But even project management, it took everything I thought about like sales and marketing and almost flipped it upside down, and then gave me a whole bunch of variables, risks, and other subtasks and whatnot. So it makes you almost overthink these situations. You create baselines to say at the minimum efficiency, this is where we're running, and at the maximum efficiency, this is where we're running. If we're running lower or higher for that matter, then I probably need to check in with creative A, B, or C, or I might need to check in down the line of creative A, B, and C, or those the firms or the agencies that we're working with. So I really take a large macro perspective to the whole project management from the get-go, from pre-production, from that initial screening call, or excuse me, the discovery. That's kind of when all that starts. You're starting to toggle the scope a little bit. You get a little contract locked in, and now we're turning to real project management. We're rocking and rolling, assigning tasks, subtasks, etc. And I think that helps you because you're not just in it, you're on it, right? You're looking over the project, but you're still in it. Sometimes you're too deep in it to really see exactly what's going on. So having a way to kind of step back, use project management tools as simple as Basecamp all the way to Microsoft Project Manager. Those things really help. They help, those conversations and that relationship that you might need to have. But, soft skills are huge. Being able to chat with people when you're on set, all that project management shit is out the door because now you're actually interacting with people. So I don't want to overlook the soft skills that usually get you to the position of project management. So let's not
Mm.
forget to, just hands-on experience. Again, that comes from sales and marketing, of just working with people, all different backgrounds, different clientele, up and down the ladder. You got to know how to massage those situations, diffuse situations, put out fires, and or give accolades, glorify, push people, etc.
Nice. No, it's a great way to put it. To tell you the truth, I have to freshen up or even learn about project management because
Man, dig into it.
I think I might have to, just talking to you right now. And with that in mind, what is your, I guess, advice for a lot of just creators or just video marketers out right now when it comes to content creation right now? Because I feel like there's so many platforms you have to upload to. There's so
Yeah.
many pieces of content you have to create from one. What have you found managing these different types of pieces of content, and how do you come up with that idea of, okay, we're going to shoot one thing or the couple things, and then we're going to cut it up into little pieces, and then we're going to house it? Like, what's your process with that? And
Hmm.
also, what tools have you discovered that's really helped you kind of organize yourself in the post production and publishing side?
Yeah, I think what you alluded to at the end is kind of is pretty much where everything stems from, right? It's organization, and more importantly, it's organization for you. I think as a creative, the word organization is like, I don't want to change my shit. I don't want to change that process. I like it the way I like it, right? I want my guitar where I want it. Like I want my preamp set. Editors, they want their same things. They want their plugins the way they want it. We get all that, but I think just organizing it the way you want, finding your process first, and then understanding that there are tools and resources that are going to amplify that process or make that process a lot more efficient. Example again, project management tools that are going to organize your ideas so they're not just scattered as your creative is, but they actually, or you're pulling, some tasks from your brainstorm. You're not just brainstorming and then not coming back to that note, but you have a task that says, come back to the brainstorm from last week and pull the top 3 ideas, right? And then send them to down the line to admin and have admin do something with them. Before you know it, it's on your social media calendar, and now you have to do it. Uh, so that's my process in a nutshell, is starting with the organization, starting with simple tools such as like Evernote, just things that keep me in line at home and in at work, and then kind of taking that and bringing that into the workplace with the sophisticated like a project management tool, or even just reminders that are really going to kind of kick you in the butt to get these tasks done. Because find out as a producer is that there's so many things going on in the background. You're doing one thing, but you have your editor who's doing research on something. Your editor might have to way they shot this for 2 days just so they can get the same thing. Um, Knowing that up front, using the tools like Studio Binder, amazing. Things like that can really help with casting calls, getting the crew all together. I think I started on some Google Sheets at some point, but I still use it, right? I use it to start some of my pricing models, generate a theme or an ideal, maybe get quick pricing models off, and then when it's really crunch the numbers, I'm in a different program. Um, so finding that organization, making sure those things talk. That's usually a big hub, whether that's a cloud or your old iMac style, whatever works for you. And then really fleshing out the opportunities in that process. Am I maximizing my process? Can I be more? Can I do this process more times? Can I do it slower and better? Think of your process. It is like, I'm so stuck in my process. Like, how can you refine it quarterly, monthly, project to project? That's going to be better. And a lot of that even goes to like lessons learned, sitting back after a project. This is where we effed up. I didn't need all this. I brought on too many PAs. I didn't need all that. We're able to shoot through this. You'll work through that with the clients too, and the relationship. You'll start to learn. But yeah, that's a start. A little bit of a mouthful, but that's a start.
No, I'm totally with you, because right now it's like, when you start off with your process in your own mind, and then you have to get your team on board to use the same software. And
Oh
then
yeah.
all of a sudden that new software comes out of nowhere. And then you realize, I think I like that CRM better. And
Oh
then
yeah.
it's like, you have to like find that
CRMs and
transition to that CRM and realize I have to migrate everything over there. I have to teach my assistants how to work this. I just went
dude.
through a whole limitless training with my assistant right now, and it's just it's working with teams as a creative. It's something that you have to learn,
Yeah.
because being a creative, actually, at the end of the day, is being free. You want to be free, so sometimes you're very independent, extremely independent. So to become a team player as a creative at first and an artist, it takes work, and so
Absolutely.
With what you're doing out right now, you're doing a lot of the executive producing and creating these videos, and now we're all in this lockdown. It's kind of opening up. Like, how have you guys adapted to COVID-19 and what's happening now? And what trends have you been noticing with video marketing and videos?
Yeah, yeah. First thing was adaptability, right? Everything hit. It was just kind of what do you want to do? Do we want to have a big meeting and just drive the company in a different direction, or do we just stay afloat? Like, do we survive? Can we survive? So a lot of that, I think, was just adaptability, right? What does the market want or need right now? And what we do, does it already, or do we need to fine tune or tweak anything? Because we're probably, too far off from what they still need. The needs are still very much the same at the end of the day. A lot of messaging was changed, so old ads with just new messaging. That's a lot of post production right there. So we looked into these nooks and crannies of where the ideal of new content, or even I'll say repurposed content, where that kind of comes from. And I think that's been a huge trend, right? Is hey man, I have these files from last shoot we did. Let's throw some new messaging on it. A product shoot is a product shoot. The only thing difference is the messaging on top of it. So with COVID, you've seen a lot of messaging changes. Some people were early to the party. Some people were late. Some people are tone deaf. Some people are running ads in the middle of Black Lives Matter for like shavers and stuff. Like, it's everything. There's just a little bit of everything. So I think the best thing to do is to just look at what you have. Are you adaptable within what you have? Are you flexible within what you have? Because you're probably thinking of a problem that's not even going to present it if you just kind of do the meat and potatoes of what you provide. You might just have to go out your shell a little bit. And you should back out to these clients, man. People you already have relationships with, they're going to have seats. So you should be dialing it back, reaching in that Rolodex, that black book, hey, boo, X, stuff like that with your clients. You need to, we had to do that a little bit too.
Nice, right? You brought up a really good point, the whole idea of how to make your messaging and your ads and your marketing and everything you put out there sensitive to Black Lives Matter, right?
Yeah.
Because it is a time where we do want to focus our attention on pressing matters and subjects and things in society that have been around and are around, and we need to
Yeah.
bring to light. And so, in your thoughts, as a production company and as, working with marketing, what is that fine line? How should companies act when it comes to messaging and marketing and putting out content during this time?
You gotta look at the brand first, right? I mean, with where I'm at Rowlbertos, we're fortunate enough to have a brand that is rigid and that has an audience that is kind of baked into what we're thinking, right? We're hired because we represent a certain field, a certain demographic, if you will. And that can be as vague as Southern California. Um, it can also be as fine as San Diego. But that being said, is you look back at your brand, you see where you're at, you see who you are, and then you make your statements based on that, right? I don't expect Ford to stop making cars. I just expect them to look at who they are, and if it matches with what's going on, or if there's, from a marketing perspective, if it makes sense at all, people still have to drive. So it's again just a look in. Can I align with this? Does it make sense? Is it at the root of what we want to do? I've seen other companies make money doing the opposite. So it depends on your audience, really, and the brand itself. Who are you servicing? You can't really. Maybe you're not as sensitive because who's your audience, right? If
Hmm.
you're, if it doesn't fit that as far as who you're serving this to, then does it even matter at that point? I'm
Got
probably not
you.
going to see the ad if you don't want me to see it, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I think at this moment in time, I think a lot of companies are feeling pressure to say something and to change their branding, change their marketing, and even creatives. A lot of creatives, even like myself, like we're thinking about how do we put out content so our audience still sees consistency, and B, we're also sensitive to the matters and we have a voice talking about it, and see that we're not just doing it to be part of a trend.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I think C is
It's
the big elephant in the room, right? Is it like who's late? Like what is it?
right.
Who's late to the party?
Oh
It's a good
man.
question because from my skin specifically, uh, and I speak for everybody, of course, but you know, there's such deep layers of thinking that you're always going to have that thought. Period. You're always going to have that thought. If is, you know, is it that? Is it that? But at the end of the day, we're still going to push through that and deliver whatever that task is or that job is. So I think that's going to just, you know, kind of factored into everything from both sides now. So I think that's really the twist is like, oh shit, you got to think about that too. I always have to think about that. Like, so I think a lot of this whole BLM exchange is, it's uncomfortable and it's supposed to be because it's been uncomfortable for a long time on the other side. So I think we're sharing that discomfort and, you know, I can just leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah, we get super deep on that, but we're we're talking about creativity on here, and
Definitely.
actually, to tell you the truth, I really appreciate talking to you about just how your marketing side and everything is stemmed from your music production side, and this whole idea of messaging during this time. Like it's a really refreshing,
Yeah.
because
Thank you.
I think that creative people and also marketers, there are times where we feel like we're in our own little bubble, and that no one understands what we're trying to do, and we're just trying to put out multiple fires and start 18 businesses at one time. But in your mind, as a creative, I've always asked this question: is that how do you get into your creative flow? When you have to create that marketing campaign, that budget, or even that beat, how do you get into your creative flow state?
uh, you know, so meditation, really, just kind of like, and I don't even know if it's full on meditation, but it just, you know, just kind of grounding yourself for a little bit. You're going into things with a purpose. You know, if I just sit down, I'm like, I got to force creativity. But if I really sit down 5 minutes, I think about creativity. Why do I want to be creative in these next 30 minutes, right? Start to train your mind before, like, hey, I'm about to get creative. You know, instead of just sitting down saying, oh, let's write this right now. You know, sit down 5 minutes before that, 10 minutes before that, a day before that, whatever works for you. Get your mind right, get a pre-focus on that so that you're efficient within those 30 minutes or that whatever you allot. Also, you know, depending on the project itself, depending on where you're in the project, just kind of close it up. Doesn't have to be just I'm going to be at work for 8 hours just busting my tail on this. Like, now dedicate an hour or two, some food, talk to a friend, see what other, you know, inspirations come about, and get back to the creative. One thing when you make beats, when you make music, is like, dude, a new ear in the morning is completely different. You know, that beat was last night and you hear it in the morning, you're like, dude, this is trash. It's slow. Like, I don't know what's wrong with it. The synths sound, and perspective, kind of changing that perspective is huge from creativity. So I'll even look at numbers. I'll look at numbers like, yes, perfect. And then tomorrow I'm like, oh, forgot the travel accommodations and taxes in there. I forgot to check that box. So, you know, perspective, getting your mind right to try to get that perspective. Um, and then once you're there, just fall out, you know, when you can in that allotted period.
That's great advice, because I think that there's a lot of times where you schedule your day and you have certain blocks, or you just say, okay, I gotta get this done today. And there are
Yeah.
times where you try to get creative. You get that one text, call, email that comes in, and it just breaks your flow.
Yep.
And you have to switch gears, and then you have to switch back gears to write up that creative brief, or that pitch, or that pitch deck, or
Yeah.
that and or that proposal. And proposals are very creative, and so it's having that moment beforehand of like, you know what, my purpose right now is to get this done. This is my objective. Let me get into this flow state. Boom, 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 boom. All right, let's get into it. That's really great advice, because trust me, I've been I've been in those situations where I haven't done that, and my creative is so robotic, mechanical, and just
Yeah.
uninspired.
Yeah.
So
I hear you. But that's
yeah.
kind of what you're doing when you're setting something in your calendar. You're doing just that. You're pretty much telling your mind, like, I'm going to do this tomorrow at this time. It's going to be great. And no, it is. Put it in the calendar. But we're so caught up in the morning at that point before our 10 o'clock, it's 9:58. You're just now getting a notification. You're not ready. So, I mean, little things like you imagine it to 2 notifications before your meeting. So now you have a meeting in a 10-minute. Now you know, okay, now I can right now. Because you're already putting forth, right? It's just like leads that are that you're pushing through. You got to remarket to those people because they're not converting yet. You already have the ads out. You're not just going to leave the ads there. If they're on the website, you want to convert them. And that's kind of how you got to think of yourself too. Like, what other push do I need, or whatever? Is it the coffee in the morning and the meditation for 2 hours? Whatever that is. For me, it happens to be 5 minutes before to get ready for that chunk of task.
Man, I love that. You got to A/B test your productivity.
Yourself. A/B, just duplicate yourself and see which one works out.
Right? And then let's see what the conversions are. Let's see what's happening.
Look-alike audience, and run it twice.
Got you, man. You're going to see me tomorrow with my own clone.
You can do that in post,
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. And thank you so much for, this conversation. We can go deep.
Thank you.
Super deep for like 8 hours. But I know that you're a busy person. Yeah. We've got clients to talk to and campaigns to run. So before we go, I would love to, ask, what's your advice to, I guess, creative people out there who are, trying to get into the marketing world, right? The people who they have that one, let's say that album, right? Or the short film or the YouTube channel, or the video, and they're trying to get those views. They're trying to get that traffic. What's your advice to them right now when it comes to, okay, do they jump straight into ads? Do they just build it and they come? What would you tell them?
I would definitely say kind of back to the goals, right? Artists, are you trying to get played on ABC on a TV show, or are you trying to like drop an album and be the hottest, new rapper? Different strategy for sure. It was kind of a showcase portfolio, build it and they will come. Now it's like you got to go bring it to it, like, hey, I built it, and then like come inside to see how well it's built. Like, so you got to do it, or if you want that, but there's a lot of value in just, getting them to come to the building, or, maybe you're getting paid to just supplement things, whatever your money pocket is, or whatever your goal is at the end of the day. You got to work it backward like you're a client. That's the best advice I would give them, is treat yourself like a client for once. Stop treating yourself like an artist, like yourself. If you treat yourself like a client, you hold responsibilities of yourself like a pay yourself if you have to, whatever works mentally. But if you treat yourself like a client, you'll inch a lot closer to pretty much, being able to not only serve that to other people, but then you'll understand, be mindful of while you're in those positions, and that's important.
Man, that is such great advice. Treat yourself like a client. Like that's
you
really
might
good to know.
Bad client. That's the worst. When you find out you're a bad client, you're like, oh my gosh,
so demanding.
Now you're like, okay, I need a team. Like, okay, I definitely need a team, because I need a team to deal with myself. Like, but yeah, a little self-discovery never hurt,
Yeah. Oh man, thank you so much, Ryan. I really enjoyed this conversation, and
likewise. Thank you.
Next time I'm in San Diego, we'd love to grab some lunch with you and geek out.
Burritos.
Tacos, burritos,
Beer.
that carne asada, that al pastor.
Don't, please, man. I now you're gonna shift my whole dinner tonight, man.
Trust me, man. You just got me thinking about pineapple and al pastor, little tacos.
Tacos El Gordo isn't far from here, man. Shout out to Tacos El Gordo.
Oh my goodness. All right, I'm going down there. We're gonna have some tacos, burritos, some horchata.
I'm with it.
Horchata. But thank you so much, Ryan. Please let the people know also, where can they find you and how can they support?
Absolutely. You can find me directly, Rowlbertos.com. That's where a majority of my work goes through. You can also find me on LinkedIn as Ryan Mills. And lastly, you can find me on IG as Right Moment. That's WRITEMOMT.
Cool. Very cool.
I'm everywhere. I'm digital.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Go around.
Well, thank you so much, Ryan. I appreciate you, brother.
Mitch, thank you, man.
I will talk to you online, and I'll see you in San Diego having a carne asada and al pastor burrito slammed together with the horchata.
Okay. Fair enough, man. Take it easy.
Take care. Thanks, my friend.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Haven podcast. And if you dig it and like what you heard today, please give us a nice review and rating and share it with one of your friends that you think needs some creative inspiration. You can always find more content and resources at thecreativehaven.com and hit me up on Instagram at Mitchel Dumlao. And if you want to reach out, collab, or ask any questions, you have my permission to slide into my DMs. So keep positive, continue to learn and hone your craft, and create all day. Salamat.